progress has been made. So basically what we've got here is I put the 2x3 tubes in, and I'm going to just show you kind of a quick layout of what I did to get to this point. So far I've got the 2 frame rails added in, and I got everything welded up on the floor. So you know, I've been staring at this car. You know, sometimes when you're working on a project like this, like I've never worked on this car before. I've never cut the floor out of one, nor have I ever you know, it's just basically what I'm trying to say is that you kind of just got to figure things out. So I'm staring underneath the car, and I'll show you that here in a minute. But I'm staring at the car, and there's already a factory. There's actually 2 sections of factory unibody frame rails underneath at the rear. And this car, for being a unibody, it's heavily overbuilt, and it's actually freaking awesome. So what I ended up doing is I took a 2x3 tube, I created this pattern, and I had a piece of scrap 2x3. And what this is doing, and this is allowing the 2x3 tube to be notched in a way that allow me to fully weld, not fully weld, but weld 3 sides of this tube into factory structure, and it will allow me to make an additional bracket. So I was able to weld this seam here along here. I could not weld on the inside there, but I got the outside, and then figure this is double-sided. And I was able to weld a smaller section of this upper section, and then base the under, and then it'll be fully capped off. But I'm going to be using this as my, I'm going to be using this section as the mounts for the ladder bars themselves. So what I did is I basically fit the tube, slid the tube into the structure, jigged it up at the front. I don't have a chassis jig, so I just have to use I've got all of my levels, you know, my magnetic level, and I put it on the side, I put it on the top. I've got multiple levels all over, and they've been falling left and right. But basically what I'm doing is I'm just trying to keep this thing as square, because I leveled the car, and then the only reference point I got are these rockers. I don't really know what else I could have used. And maybe somebody can tell me that I used the wrong spot, but I just utilized these rocker panels here, and leveled this, and then I leveled this off of these. That's all I could do. It's the best I could do. Trust me, it's going to work. It'll be fine. It may not be ideal, it may not be perfect, but it'll work damn good for this. So far, I'm within 1/8 of an inch from side to side as far as height, and I can gain that back because my floor structure, even though this is all welded in, it's a little bit pliable still. So I can still move because I haven't completely locked everything in. So I got these stitch welded in. This is not done. These still need to be cut down. I need to make the risers, but I wanted to get these guys in here and get everything set up first, and then kind of weld into it. And I'll show you what my plan is for over there as well. Still got a lot of detail work to do. There is in the rocker panels, there's quite a bit of rust and corrosion. I'm going to end up plating all that, and hopefully I can gain some strength back there. Both sides have it. So I'm going to end up cutting out that material, plating it in. I think I'm going to use 16 gauge. I need to go pick some up. That's why it's not done. And but I'm super happy with how this turned out. So let's go underneath the car, and I'll give you a better example of what the heck I'm talking about. Okay, so we're back under the car. I don't know, not the best view, but it'll work. So basically what we got here is we got the 2x3 tube, comes in. This right here, what this is this is the factory lower control arm. So it's at an angle, it's like at a 30-degree angle, and it allows the lower control arm to tie into the rear end. So what they did from the factory is they added in this additional support that ties into the floor and also to this cross member. So let me tell you guys a quick story. The only reason why this car is not completely rusted out is because of undercoating. But undercoating just took 10 years off my life. This stuff is unbelievably good and very well adhered to this metal. Wire wheel was my best friend on this whole deal. Holy cow. And I almost died twice doing it. Laying on my back with the wire wheel going to town. Anyways, we'll talk more about that later. So, but I spent probably 6 hours grinding away undercoating. One of the mistakes I made on a past build is that I didn't do a good enough prep job prior to welding, and my welds were really bad. I mean, I'm not, it's just, you know, pressing this that I am not an expert welder, but I can apply a good weld or maybe not an average weld. I can apply an average weld. Anyways, so undercoating, removed all the undercoating off of here. How I figured out straight is I utilize the pinch weld. Now it's the law of average, because the pinch weld has some areas it has 4 layers of metal. Some areas the pinch weld has 3 layers of metal. So you just got to find an average. I found the average of 10 inches. So I averaged it out 10 inches. So I from this edge to the lip, 10 inches. So that's how I figured it out. So I measure over 10 inches. And I took a self-tapping screw, screwed it in. Measured 10 inches up there from the line, self-tapping screw, took a string, whoosh, down I went, basically snapped the line. Same thing on both sides, worked out great. So that's how I figured out where to cut. So then I basically channeled the floor across, and then there's some structure back here that I'll show you guys here, and maybe I'll just cut away and show you that because I don't want to move the camera. So that's how I figured out where to cut. So I removed all the undercoating from here, back here, all of this, because I'm going to utilize that for additional supports. So how this worked out is that this piece basically just slid in, caught back here. There's an angle cut. So this distance on this, since this is at an angle, right, this one's longer than this side. So it's at an angle. I figured all that out. And I took that 2x3 tube, and I must have made probably 10 different versions of it until I got it perfect, until it fit very well. So and then I took that 2x3 tube, I cut the ends off of it, and then I had my patterns, which I could flip-flop from side to side. You just flip it over, right? So I started with the cardboard. You can see this is an I-beam structure, so it's got a middle support, 1 inch flange, 1 inch flange on each side, so it's 2 inches. And I just slid this in here. I was able to weld in there, and then at 10 inches, strategically placed, because that gives me about 1.5 inch gap between these two, and I can then weld in there. So I welded in there, welded in there, welded across here, welded across here. Now I'm going 083 wall. So I'm going 083 wall to multiple layers of spot welded material, where it's like, looks like it's about 16 gauge ish. So you can't just put all the heat on. You got to spot weld it first, spot it, then go through, and you can fully weld it. I gave it all, well, I don't know if I'm fully done on this one, but I gave everything 3 passes. So I spotted it all in, got it built up, and then gave it 3 passes, and then you can just pound it in then, or burn it in real hot. So another thing reason why I cleaned all the metal off of here and here is because I'm gonna just, before I install my ladder bar stuff. So again, this is a mounting surface, right? I'm going to utilize this section back here for the lower ladder bar mounts, and I put an angle on here because I'm just going to tie all that together. Same with the other side, and I'm not exactly sure how this is all going to go. We'll talk more about that. But this is a flush lip back here. I guess this is boxed in. I said an I beam, but it's like an L beam. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a piece of 1/4 inch, maybe 1/8 inch. Take 1/8 inch, maybe 1/8 inch material, maybe 1/4 inch. We'll see what I got laying around. And I'm going to make a piece that ties into this, right here into this first, and triangulate it. Come on down here, make this nice, tie all this together. And then basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of tube, tie in from this support here, 45-degree angle back into this support plate. So I'll have all of that will be tied in back here. This is going to be super strong back here. So this is going to be very, very well done. This is going to be extremely, this thing's going to take some power. So that's how we got all this set up. It worked out pretty good. I'm very happy with it. It's not done, but it's close, and I might even do some things over here maybe and tie it in. I don't know. We'll see. It probably won't need it. But so basically that's where we're at with that, and both sides are like that. And then the next steps are going to be to do some outriggers. That's going to tie the pinch well in the front, into this tube and get it a little bit more structurally sound. So we'll head back up top. Okay, so back up top here, and so basically the next steps that I'm going to do is I'm going to I'm a little bit off from side to side, so I'm just going to take away a little bit from one side and add a little bit of height to the other to make sure that we're good squared. An important measurement is that that these things are straight going forward. That's important, but I think it's actually just equally as important to make sure they're square from a vertical standpoint. From a vertical standpoint, you know, because as you run forward, those things will tweak on you a little bit. So you got to make sure you maintain that. We're in really good shape. Basically, I have a big giant pair of channel locks around here. I don't know where they're at the moment, but you can grab hold of it and twist it, put a little bit of tweak into it before you start welding it. And that's how I got mine basically straightened out. So the next step, so I want to do floor mounted pedals. I want to do a floor mounted shaft, floor mounted pedals in this thing. I think it'd be kind of cool to do that. It'd be kind of fun. So I'm going to have 100% mechanical linkage for the clutch assembly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an outrigger that ties in right in here, that comes across. So it's going to be at the same height as the top of the frame rail. That's going to tie in here, and there's going to be one back here, and then I'm going to make another one that's going to sit in here, and that's going to be where my brake reservoir is going to be. So I'm going to have brakes underneath the car, so I got to get all that figured out. The frame rail height is actually, the top of this frame rail is higher than the factory frame floor pans were. So I did that strategically because I wanted to get the floor height up, because I knew that I was going to have my brake master cylinder underneath the car. So I wanted to get it up so it's not just hanging down there. So then when I create these outriggers, they're going to be triangulated. So it's going to be 3 inches tall at the back and probably like 2 inch tall on the side. I still got to do some grinding in here, get the material cut away, but I'm going to cut all this material. Probably going to end up cutting this whole I'm going to have to go through, cut all this material out, and then I'm going to section in some 16 gauge to give me a good mounting surface. The passenger side in particular is it's got quite a bit of holes. It's not a lot left to it. So I'm going to cut it out, but luckily from about this point rearward, this was the area where the front seat mounts were. So from this part rearward, they're in pretty good shape. So I'm going to just section it in, clean it all up, get some rust converter in there, and I'm going to overlay this with 16 gauge. So front of the car, what we got going on here, in case anyone was wondering, this is the welder I'm using. It's a Weld Pack 175 HD 220 deal. Works great. No problems there. I think that's a Home Depot or maybe a Menards deal. So basically what I'm going to do is the floor pans, you know, right here is my mark of where I'm going to cut it. And then I'm going to go 3-inch riser and then 3-inch tube that comes all the way out. So basically, you know, this floor pan, she's a little spongy, and that's, or I guess Firewall, a little spongy. And it's just because we've got so much rot and everything going on over here that I got to repair. So what I'm going to do is I've got an estimate of where, taken from when before I cut this on angles and everything, and I kind of made a little template out of cardboard. And what I'm going to end up doing is, do you see this factory unibody support? I'm going to do basically the same thing. So my pipe's going to come up, come out, and then I'm just going to tie this into the lower, which will give me really good support. Keep in mind, guys, that I'm going to have a roll bar in this. So I'm going to have downriggers that come down, which will create a lot of strength, triangulate this and create a lot of strength. And plus I still have to weld in all the floor pans. Floor pans are going to be made out of a combination of 16 gauge supports and 18 gauge. And we're going to do a video on that. I just got to get the material here.